Today's video, we're going to do a quick behind the scenes feature to show you all the details and effort that go into our belt buckle. Alright, this is our belt buckle that goes on the cash belt. If you guys don't know Wazoo, we make sure that everything is functional, practical, usable, and durable. We want it to last, we want it to be used, and we want it to stand up to everything it's intended to do. To that end, we had to custom design a belt buckle. Even though this looks very similar to other cam style buckles on the market, we had a few different design points that we had to accomplish. One, our cash belt is made of two pieces of mil-spec webbing that are sewn together. So we needed to make sure that the teeth gap was enough that it would hold the material, allow it to slide back and forth with the two pieces of webbing, but not so tight that it'll end up damaging it and wearing out the belt or cutting through it over time. So that was a huge part of the design, and I think that part is working out really well for us. Another issue that we had was the material. So the existing buckles were made out of a carbon steel. So this is a 300 series stainless. So even if you manage to wear through the coating altogether and take it back down to its bare metal like this, it's still going to last you forever. It's a 300 series, so that's extremely corrosion resistant. It's called stainless, not stain proof. But this will last for years. Even if you wanted to take it and you don't like the colors, for example, that we have, that we offer, you can get it to a local powder coater or paint shop, or even a local gun shop that does Cerakote work. And right now we're using Cerakote. We're getting them done through Cerakoters. We'll show you part of that process as well in future videos. But this is essentially the heart and soul of the belt. The belt itself usually gets more attention because of its functionality, but the buckle has so much that goes into it to make that design work. So when we get them in, they're just like this. They're bare metal. A lot of times the surface finish may not be this nice. You can see this has a few minor imperfections on it, but it'll get covered by the coating. We do have some that'll have some deep pits or nicks or something in there, and those we mark, and then we have to set them aside and potentially go back through and do a secondary grinding process to get rid of those imperfections so we can coat it. Once we get it out, we open it up, make sure that it functions correctly. So what we're doing is we're opening it fully. We want to make sure that the front cover comes out almost flat with the back, and the same with this little back latching tab. This one you can see doesn't quite lay flat, so that might be indicative of a problem here. But we look at it from this angle and we can actually tell, if you look close, this edge of the teeth are closer than this edge. So when they bent these two little edge tabs, this tab ended up bent in a different location, so the pivot point is higher up. That's why it's marked here, and this one now becomes a reject, because this is not a fixable issue without rebending the tabs and starting all over. So at this point, this buckle gets completely kicked out of the process and it's done. If it had passed this initial, operation inspection and we make sure that the function is there, the next thing we do is we try and tweak that clip. So we want it to have a positive engagement. We want it to have a nice solid, it rests on the little dots, and then you click it, and it's got that positive engagement that really takes some force to open. That way it doesn't accidentally come open, and when you're putting it on, you click your belt, then you know it's nice and solid and secure. The way that we do that may require 10 or 20 times of opening it, but we take it, you can look at the end here, we need to make sure that these tabs are equally spaced so that it holds it properly side to side. Doing that, we come back, if the latch needs to be strengthened or loosened, we take a pair of pliers and we kind of tweak the edges a little bit. We sometimes have to come in and tweak these the base platform right here. We have to tweak that to get the hinges aligned. And then eventually, through tweaking these, the bottom pieces to make sure that's all aligned, last thing we do is we make sure there's no alignment issues. So if I'm wearing the belt and I go to put it on, I might be pushing down here, down towards the ground, and not realizing it as I'm bringing this in to latch it. But in doing so, we want to make sure that if someone is pushing down, that it'll still latch. If they're not properly aligned, it can catch on the metal there, and then it'll bind up. So we make sure that no matter which direction you push it, up or down, it still latches. So there's a lot of little fine tuning, tweaking that goes into the function of these before we even go any further. So this is the initial inspection, the initial function. From there, what we end up having is, because these are stamped out of a sheet of metal, the first process actually cuts out the shape. So where the metal cuts, we end up with a smooth side, which in this instance is on the inside here. So there's a smooth edge, and then there's a burr. And we don't want that burr on there because it's going to just catch and rub and wear. And that little tiny fold of metal will end up creating a weak spot in the coating. So the next thing we do, once they get all tweaked and functioning properly, we take it out to a wire wheel. And we sit there and we go all the way around this burr edge on the top of the buckle, make sure that gets all nice and rounded off. And then the same thing with the teeth. So they got a sharp burr on them. We don't want that. We don't want it to cut through the webbing excessively, so we run across here as well and make sure that's nice and rounded off. The back I'm not as worried as much about because that's more of a one-time thing. Maybe you adjust it every now and then, but once you get your belt size, typically you'll just cut it off and leave the webbing attached there and leave that one set. So we've adjusted it, we've inspected it for any major flaws, and now we've gone and we've deburred the edges. Like I said earlier, if we find any of them that have the pits, the bigger imperfections on the surface, then we got to take them and go do a secondary grind process to where we're actually going to take the face of this and run it across a belt sander to really smooth out that surface and get rid of any of those imperfections. Next step of the process, we take it to coating. So we go from our nice shiny stainless to this super cool matte gray finish here. And so this is Cerakote. It's used on firearms, moving metal parts, where metal contacts metal. So it's extremely thin, and the problem with it being thin is that it won't cover up all the imperfections. They show through, but this color is called tungsten. So if you want to color match it or anything, or make your firearm match your belt buckle if you're into that, then tungsten is the color you're looking for. We're prototyping a couple other colors as well and hoping to expand to a black. But for the time being, tungsten is our bread and butter. Now, it looks great with the black belt, and pop this guy open. You can see in here, coated on the inside, and then this is our final application, which is an elastic sleeve. So let me see if I can do this here. Do it this way. So it's an adhesive sleeve that we stick inside the front of the buckle, but it's got two elastic bands on it. And we designed it to fit one of our Adventure Medical Kit's mini rescue flash signal mirror. So you can carry that signal mirror in there. So when we designed this belt buckle, we had to ensure that we left enough space to fit both a mirror and the webbing of the buckle. So that again was another design challenge that we accomplished, and now it's kind of, maybe overlooked by a lot of customers, but there's a lot of design and effort that went into these things. And let's talk about the bottle opener itself here. So it's cut out shape on the back, intended for beverage bottles. I prefer to use it on beer. If you don't have a mirror sleeve in there, you can actually use it while it's attached to the belt. You don't even have to take it off, undo the belt at all. And what we did is we took an existing design. There's some on the market that have a bottle opener back there, but we found that they would bend. So we took our material, the sheet metal that we're using to make these is actually 10% thicker, so that no matter how many times you end up using that bottle opener, it's not going to bend and warp on you. Another feature I wanted to point out that we added to these, this little slot here. A lot of times, if you need to undo that, you're trying to get your fingernail up in there and end up, hurting yourself or struggling with it. We added that slot just to make it a heck of a lot easier. So take a little multi-tool, Leatherman, a coin, whatever you got. Another trick that you can do is, because of the angle that you get on it, if you push the webbing up in, it'll help kind of flip that over. So sometimes you can just push and wiggle and it'll come undone as well. So don't end up breaking fingernails or anything crazy. If you need to adjust it, use a tool, pop it in there, just like that. So Cerakote is super durable, and we designed it to last. We wanted something extremely, extremely durable, and we went with Cerakote because of the color options, because of this really nice matte finish you can achieve, and that's our standard as it is now. So we're hoping to expand to some different colors, but this is the end of the belt buckle, and I don't want to keep rambling about this, but it goes to show how much effort, time, and design goes into each one of these. So we send it off, we get it Cerakoted. Even when it comes back, it has to pass one more inspection to make sure there wasn't anything wrong with the coating process. We look at it in different lights, make sure it's coated, all the edges are coated, and that we don't have any issues where the hinges may have been gunked up or anything like that. So we get these really nice, refined, positive engagement buckles, and all of that goes into play. All of that happens behind the scenes before it gets stuck onto your cash belt, and then from there it ends up living life with you on your cash belt for years to come. So hope you guys enjoyed this little rundown and instruction on what happens behind the scenes with the cash belt buckles. Let us know if you have any questions, and maybe we'll do some more of these behind the scenes things if you like it. Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one.